What's up guys, it's MCJ Matt Jones back with another video, and we're continuing to talk about Power Platform pipelines. So in the last video we showed you an intro to Power Platform pipelines, including what is Power Platform pipelines, how you can install the pipeline configuration app and how you can get started with pipelines, and creating your first pipeline. In this video we're going to show you extending pipelines to an additional stage, so an additional environment to deploy into, as well as running our very first pipeline and some of the things to be aware of as we do deployments. So let's just get started. This is where we left off on our last video. So we've created our Power Platform pipeline. I'm currently in our development environment, and we have a single stage pipeline where we're moving from our development environment to our MCJ4 environment. I'm going to show you how to add another environment after this. So we create this environment in the Power Platform Pipelines application. It's a valid way to create it, and we can obviously add an additional stage in through there. But I'm going to show you through the Pipelines UI just so you can get an understanding of multiple ways to do the same thing. So I'm in my solution, I'm in my pipeline section. I've selected my pipeline, it's the only one available to me at the moment, MCJ preview to MCJ4, it's easy for me to say. I can click on Add Stage, and I have to give it a name, just like we did in the last video. So we'll call it MCJ4 to pipeline test. I can do a description if I want to, and then it's show me the source environment being the MCJ preview. So even though I'm going to add this stage and so it's going to come after this MCJ4 stage, it's telling me the source environment, so where it's going to get that data from, is still going to be that development environment. And then down here we can see a list of our target environments. So I can, or other environments. So I can have a look in here. I can filter this if I want to. I can search target environments where I can just choose this pipeline test here, and then we'll hit save. And we can see it said successfully added your pipeline stage. Nice green banner at the top, and we can see the UI updates, and I instantly get a new stage here in my pipeline. So now I have a multi-stage pipeline. I can deploy from dev to test to production if I want to, if those are the environments. We can also add multiple other stages on as well. So if you have a pre-prod, a UAT, a sit, any other environments that you want, you can put them here into this environment structure. And it was nice and easy to add that in. So now I can deploy a solution from our development to our test to our MCJ4 to our pipeline test in the end, and we can see some information about these things, and we can click to go to the environments, etc. This is all cool. This is all great. I will point out one thing here. This deploy button is not currently grayed out. This deploy button is all purple, and as I hover over it, I can select it. The pipeline, the MCJ4 to pipeline test button is grayed out. I can't click here. And there's a reason for that. I can't deploy a solution straight to production. That's or I can't skip a stage in this instance. That's one of the main reasons for using pipelines here, is that it enforces people to go through a healthy ALM life cycle, going through multiple environments that you dictate. Hello. And here's my cat. So it allows you to go through all these environments that you dictate, and you can say, hey, you want to go to this environment before we go to this environment. So you can tell people this is the path. You can no longer just deploy straight from dev into production. So I can't deploy here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our solution, and we're going to add a couple of components that will give us some additional options during our pipeline. So we'll go to objects, and in here we will create a new environment variable. We'll call this pipelines deploy, and then we'll give it we'll call it a text string, and we'll just put in the default value of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is an environment variable. So an environment variable will pop up as we do the pipeline deployment. So let's do this. And then the next thing we'll do is we will create a cloud flow really quickly as well. So choose new, automation, Cloudflow, instant. Here we go. We can give the flow a name. We'll call this pipeline flow 1. We'll choose a manual trigger for now and we'll hit create. And what we'll do is we'll add a data source into this. So we'll go to new step and we'll go to SharePoint. Why not? And we'll choose get items. And then we will choose some options here. Cool. And we'll hit save. Now what that's done is that's created a connection reference, and I've created a connection to this flow as well. Great. Now let's go back to, yeah, that's fine. Let's go back to our solution and go back to pipelines. Now, seeing as we're in that solution and we go to pipelines, it means we're going to deploy this solution. So let's deploy it to our MCJ4 environment. So let's click deploy here. Now it pops out a side pane, and this side pane is telling you about creating your solution, like creating your deployment here. So we're going to deploy the solution to the next environment. Notice on the left hand side we've got destination and we've got summary. Now what that's saying is, hey, these are the options we're going to go through. As we click through to next, we're going to see that update in a second. Firstly, we actually have this thing of like, hey, where are we deploying? Are we deploying to the MCJ previous to MCJ4 or MCJ4 to pipeline? We can't change this option because we've only ever deployed this to a single, we've not deployed this solution yet, so we can't skip ahead to the next one. And we also have deployment schedule. Do we want to deploy this now or do we want to deploy this later? So if I choose later, you can actually specify a time and a date for your solution to deploy. So if you do have those instances where you need to deploy something out of hours for whatever reason, you can absolutely do that in here. For now, we're going to deploy now and we'll click next. Now, at this point, it says validating, and that's really important. So what that's doing is that's looking at the solution file, it's looking at the target environment, and it's trying to figure out whether the components that you're trying to deploy exist in those other environments, as well as doing some pre-checks as well. So we'll notice as it loads up, it's failed due to missing dependencies. That's handy. This is a fantastic thing to show you. It's missing a managed solution dependency. It's missing a connection reference, essentially, saying that I don't have my connection reference. That's really handy, and that's a great thing to show in this demo, that it will do that pre-validation check, that solution scanning check, to see whether there are any missing dependencies. I assumed as I added the flow, it would add the dependency or the connection reference, but it doesn't seem to have. So let's click here.
A few moments later.
Okay, so I think I'd messed up some of my connection references. I thought this was a new environment where I could where it would create a new connection reference, but it didn't. I didn't get the pop-up, I didn't realize. So what I did is I went into the flow and I created a new connection reference. Basically, I think that component is part of another managed solution, the connection reference, so we'll just ignore that for now. But what we've done is we've created a new connection reference in our flow that's added to the solution now, and we can go ahead and try the deployment there. So we'll click deploy here, we'll choose next, and hopefully this time when it validates it, we won't be missing any solution components. So it's actually really important that. So one of the ways that pipelines helps us is it helps us save time. So it does those pre-validation checks to see, hey, do those connections exist in the target environment? Are there any missing dependencies? In the last case, it did find, hey, there are missing dependencies. You need to go back and add them. Previously, you'd have to download the solution. You'd go to the target environment. You go to upload the solution, and as it was importing, you would say, hey, there's a missing dependency here, and you'd kind of like go, oh, okay, I need to go back there and find the dependency and add it in, and then do the deployment all over, and like do the download, and then it'll import all over again, and then hope you don't have any other missing dependencies. So Power Platform Pipelines helps by pre-validating your solutions before export, meaning that you can do deployments quicker, and you no longer have this back and forth and going between environments and everything else. Okay, so after a few technical difficulties, we are finally here. So you can see that the The menu is updated on the left hand side, and we can see it starts off with a connection screen. So first we trigger the deployment that says, hey, let's check in those other environments. Let's check in your target environment. Do you have a connection that can be used here? Like, do you have a connection reference for this this solution? If you already do, then you'll have a little toggle here that says, hey, no need to update the connection, or you can update and create a new connection if you want. But seeing as I'm the one deploying it and I have that connection, then it's fine. In this instance, I do not have a connection for this connection reference in the next environment. So it's prompting me to say, hey, we're going to sign you in with this. And I can choose here, I can add a new connection if I want to, or it's just, it's automatically signing me in based on the connection that I currently have and the connection that I'm signed in with. That's absolutely fine. So in here, you'll see a list of your connections in your solutions that you may need to update. Next, we can click on the next button, and then it'll ask me about my environment variable. So we create that environment variable before. We can update this here to say this can be called test1, for instance. We can reset it back to the default value. Anything we want, so we'll choose test1, and then we can choose next. Now, if you remember in the last video when we set up this this pipeline, there was a setting for AI generated deployment notes. If that setting is enabled, what it will do is it will scan through the components inside the solution, and it will state, it will pass it to an LLM and say, hey, what does this solution actually do? Like, what's the purpose of it? And the LLM's an Azure OpenAI LLM. So this is what it does, is it passes it through an LLM and it says, hey, we've got an entity, we've got an environment variable definition, and we've got a flow. Sometimes these can be useful, sometimes they can't. You want to put your own deployment notes in. Either way is fine. You can clear them if you don't want to be deployed with deployment notes. The deployment notes go into the pipelines application. They don't go into the solution, I don't believe. But yeah, we can deploy it with it or without it, but that's fine. And then next we will click deploy. And then the window closes and we can kind of see this bar pops up here. It says current deploying, and it gives us a version number for the solution that we're going to deploy. So this is an unmanaged solution that I currently have. It's deploying it into that target environment as a managed solution. It's automatically incremented the solution number from version 1.0.0.1 to 1.0.0.2, and it'll start deploying. You may see different things on this screen depending on how your pipelines are configured. If you have additional extending capabilities, such as an approval mechanism or something else, you may see a little yellow banner saying this is pending a background process sort of thing. But eventually this stream will update and it'll say that hopefully the solution is deployed successfully. What we'll do is we'll wait a couple of minutes, see it get deployed, and then we'll take a look at it from there. So after a couple of minutes, we can see that the solution deployed successfully. So the banner has gone across from this little tile here, and we can see the last successful install and when it was last deployed. If we want to, we can click on go to this environment, and what this will do is that will actually open up that target environment and we can go see that solution that's been deployed. So as it's opening up, we can see it's changed the environment to the MCJ4 one. It's all good. We'll go to solutions, and then we'll go to manage solutions, and we can see we've got our account unmanaged solution there that we've just deployed. I'm aware I'm just using a test solution that I have called account unmanaged, which is now a managed solution. So it's as simple as that. We can kind of see all these things. Now, if we want to, we can go and take a look at what that's done in our deployment configuration application. So we'll click over to this tab, and we'll go down to our run history. Now, I was having some issues when I was first trying this, although the first one says deployment failed. Subsequent ones say validation succeeded, but it never progressed further. That's because when I tried to launch the pipeline, it was actually getting stuck trying to load the connections. I think it was the Power Platform. I tried it in another environment as well, and it was still broken there. So don't think it was anything to do with what we did. It was just a small outage. But in here, we can see the run history. So we can see the deployment, the pipeline deployment name, the name of the stage that we deployed to. So this is our previews to MCJ4, meaning that we're going from our dev to our preview to MCJ4. We can see the end time and the start time. So it started this time, it ended about 10 minutes later. Times will vary depending on size of solutions and other things. Scheduled time, this is if we scheduled it. We can see the status that we got here, the artifact name, so this is the solution number, artifact number, and the target deployment environment. So let's double click this and take a look at the run history. So we can see in here we've got a bunch of different things. We've got start time and end time, we've got the operation, which was deploy. We've got a validation result down here, which is a big JSON sort of string. The validation passed, blah, blah, blah. Pre-deployment step completed. We didn't have a pre-deployment step configured, but it's good that it completed, so that's great. We can also see the artifact ID in here. I'll click into that in a second. If we go to operation details, this will kind of show you a history of what's gone on. So it starts with like a validation, and then retrieving the artifacts, validating the artifacts, and then we go into the retrieving the artifacts to actually deploy the artifact itself. So you can see that the first few steps, these deploy operations, first few steps took place within like a minute. The next step, the actual like deploy operation, took about 10 minutes to do that, and then we've got some different times here of like deploying the artifact and retrieving it. If we go to deployment settings, this is actually where we see our deployment settings JSON. Now I'll touch on this in other videos, but essentially when we created that connection and we created that environment variable, they are actually stored as a settings file that we deploy at the time we deploy the solution as well. These things aren't technically solution aware, these components, so we create them as we do the deploy, and therefore we create a settings JSON for the deployments. I'll touch on this as we look in the more advanced options for Power Platform pipelines and deployments. Next, we have our deployment notes. So those AI-generated deployment notes, we've got all that information in here. And we also have a box here for pre-export steps, additional properties, so and other things here, approval comments, etc. So loads of other things that we've got in here that we can make use of, and we'll see in future videos. If I go back to that general tab and then click on the artifact name, this is our solution artifact. So you can see the navigation updates on the left. We're looking at our solution artifacts now. We can see the name of the artifact, we can see the number, and we also have links to download both the managed and unmanaged version of this artifact. And we can see when it was generated. So it gives us that information, and we actually have the source file. So should we ever need it, should a development environment ever get deleted or anything else, we can absolutely go back and restore these environments, restore these solutions into those environments. Or if we ever need a copy of that managed environment solution to import into another environment, we can absolutely do that as well. So we can download them straight from here, and we can do that manual import. There are also other means that I'll show you in other videos as well. But that's it. So that is adding an additional stage to your Power Platform pipeline, as well as then deploying your first pipeline. And doing some additional steps in terms of connections and environment variables. I think this is really useful. I love Power Platform pipelines. Being able to manage those connections and those environment variables as we go through is fantastic. What do you guys think? Are you using Power Platform pipelines? Has this video been useful? Let me know in the comments down below. If you have found this useful, maybe spam Power Platform pipelines rule in the comments down below. But if nothing else, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.